Welcome to When Black Men Listen to Black Women, an opinionated show where a panel of black men respond to popular Listen to Black Women topics. I'm Brandon Campbell, and with me are Eric, Sam, and Khalil. Let's jump into our first question. Is the pick-me culture affecting black women's self-esteem? And I think in order to go there, we first need to figure out what is the pick-me culture.
You may be asking yourself, what is pick-me culture? Well, Sonia Eskridge wrote in a MadameNoir.com article, a pick-me's motivation for shaming other women is men. Everything they do is centered around catching a man.
Pick-me culture, in my opinion, is a feeble attempt at trying to make excuses and find reasons for why relationships aren't working. Right? So what I feel is a lot of times women are posting these memes, cook for your man, make sure that he's fed, be his peace. And I think that those things are all true, but to base the entirety of the relationship and put it solely on the woman, I think is completely wrong. And I think that's where pick-me culture comes into play. I think pick-me culture is pick me because I do these things and I'm an all-around woman, and your woman is not because she doesn't do all these things.
Yeah, I think the pick-me culture is like when women shame other women in regards to like toxic masculine meaning of like what's being a woman. Like, oh, I cook for my man every day. I clean for him every day. So this makes me the ideal woman.
You mentioned that you believe it's black women shaming other black women. Do you believe that we hold any responsibility?
Yeah, of course. Of course. We're usually the problem. 9 times out of 10, it's usually us saying that, oh, we like our women this certain way, or we see a woman do certain things. Be like, why ain't my girl doing this? Or why the girls in my neighborhood aren't doing this type of thing? Like, we'll watch Love and Hip Hop, and we'll say, why aren't the girls around my way doing this? Or why I'm not being the woman who are, being this, I guess, subservient in a sense.
Right. I think we all fall victim to that. I think as men and women, I don't think that the blame is solely on one side of the gender. I think it's on both sides. But to answer your question, I do think men do help perpetuate the pick-me culture.
I agree with that, but I think we also, for me, it's comedy. Like when I see stuff like that, I don't even take it seriously. Right. So there's merit to what Sam is saying. To me, I didn't even know it was really a thing that people really took to heart, because it's so absurd to me that you would generalize like they said, like relationships just based off just certain tasks, like that. To me, it's all jokes to me.
Right. But see, those jokes end up reinforcing narratives. They recognize them to be truths. And the problem with that is when you identify something to be your truth, you then begin to base everything, all of your actions, all of your reactions around that truth. And like I said, if it's just a false narrative being pushed or just a narrative being pushed, maybe it started as a joke, but now the 1800th person that's read this meme is not perceiving it as a joke anymore.
So jumping back in, so since we're talking about these narratives that are perpetuated, these images that are put out, how we engage with them on the internet, what is our role? What is our responsibility to kind of help change that narrative?
In my experience in seeing how this pick-me culture thing kind of works, I notice women always calling out other women about it. I don't necessarily know what men can do. Well, I feel like that job has already sort of been taken. Like women kind of out other women for saying the things that they're saying. Maybe guys should support the same women that's doing the calling out.
I think our role is more so not on the internet, but in real life. Because once we take these conversations from the internet and we practically behave in ways that support women being their full selves, our black women being their full selves, presenting themselves in the way that they want to present, engaging in relationships in the way that they want to engage with them, setting their own standards, then those conversations go from real life into the platforms that we have, such as the internet. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's like a big part of it is like building our women's confidence, in a sense, making them confident for who they are. And being able to, let them realize, like, you don't have to be something you're not in order for us to accept you or love you, cater to you, or care for you.
Well, no, I was going to say, I think it's education. Self-education and educating others. So, for example, a great book that my wife made me read was The 5 Languages of Love. And this book spoke to so many different aspects on how to love a person and how a person wants to be loved versus how you perceive they should be loved. So I think education is important. And to your point, I think that in real life we have to have those conversations and not, run with the joke narratives that we see on memes. I do believe that also on the internet, we don't need to be championing those ideas and those thoughts and those false narratives. I think that we need to speak up. We need to educate women. We need to educate men. I think men need, and I hate to say it this way, sorry fellas, but I think we need a lot more education when it comes to nurturing a relationship and how to grow a relationship and how to grow within a relationship. So I think those things are important. I think self-education is the key.
It's about us taking an active role,
Right.
Exercising some resolve,
Right.
but as well as patience in our relationships. All of us are ever evolving
Yes.
individuals, men and women. So it's patience, awareness with each other. All right, so we're getting into our last couple questions. The first one being, we want to answer the original question, which is the pick-me culture affecting black women's self-esteem? What's you guys' take on that?
I think so, to an extent. I feel like, we are at a sensitive time where, a lot of black women aren't feeling appreciated, by us black men. And they feel like, maybe, we aren't giving their fair share in a sense. So, yeah, I do feel like there's this fake competition where, it seems like there's so little that they can do to like maintain the loyalty of a black man. So I feel like, yeah, to an extent that it does affect them.
I echo what Eric said. I think it sort of adds fuel to the fire of black women wanting to be good enough. They probably look at this as another obstacle. So I don't think it may affect every woman, obviously, but I'm sure there's some that it plays in their head based off their history with men and them trying to be this perfect idea or thing for a guy in order to keep him, which goes back to the first question about, what role we play in that.
Right. I think when we talk about culture, I think it's a thing that we abstract. Like there's not real people involved, and I think we all need to take a little bit of accountability with, I guess, all the cultures we create, but specifically with the pick-me culture. And what it sounds like to me, it's based on women's experiences with men, experiences maybe with gender roles in their household, etc. And I think it's a symbiotic relationship that's going to take all of us to be a little bit more patient with each other.
Right.
And I know I said it earlier, but we're ever evolving people. We've had a multitude of relationships. We have a multitude of things that have hurt us and has made us hold resentment or anger in different ways. And it's about us taking the responsibility and accountability to explore those within each other in order for us to get to a better place.
To the question, I do think that pick-me culture can affect black women's self-esteem. I think that, honestly, the internet affects everybody's self-esteem. Social media affects everybody's self-esteem. I think that we need to stop putting an importance on social media. We also have to be careful about what we digest and what we digest as truth. Right. So I think, yes, it is affecting women's self-esteem. But at the same time, I think overall, I think that social media is affecting everybody's self-esteem. We need to pull back a little bit and look at real life. And when we look at real life, then it goes into doing the work on self. Because when we do the work with ourselves, we're able to exude that in real life, and those real conversations happen, and that kind of X's out that whole false narrative that we've put in our head from this morning when we were scrolling through Instagram.
So when we listen as black men, when we listen to black women, and when we think of pick-me culture, what is our response now that we've had this conversation?
Don't let that culture affect your confidence and who you deserve to be with or who you feel you can attract, or just don't make it change who you are as an individual, in regards to make you change yourself because you feel like you have to fit into this mold that societies make you feel that is that's right or the way to go in a sense.
Focus on the home, focus on yourself, and focus on your significant other. I think that's what's important because everybody's relationship is extremely unique and extremely different. I don't think that any narrative can generalize anybody's relationship. So I don't think that you should run under any narratives but the ones that exist within your own home. So you should figure out what those are and speak to that. Don't worry about what the internet says. They liars. They lie all day long.
I think that as people, we have responsibilities to ourselves. And in any arena, if you ever feel like you are doing something that's not true to who you are and your values, then it's not worth doing. And so if feeding into those cultures doesn't feel right for a woman, it's probably not right. And feeding into it and trying to become what she thinks she should become probably is more short-sighted than she might first realize. So I would just tell her to stay true to herself and yeah, worry about home, worry about yourself, and try to take in more positive images than that type of stuff that you're seeing.
That's it for our conversation, and be sure to check out episodes of Listen to Black Women on Hello Beautiful and Madame Noir.